Folks, it's Tape Don't Lie. We're back with another episode this week, focusing on running back. I got my man Chris Martin in the building.
I'm here.
Let's go. Hey, we're not going to waste your time. We're going to get into it here. We're having a good time. We're talking running backs. We're going to start with the guy that led the nation in rushing, Chuba Hubbard. And Martin, this guy is special.
He's dynamic. And you know what I love about Chuba Hubbard is that he has explosive speed. We see the gas.
Track speed.
And I had a chance to talk to some NFL scouts about him, and I asked specifically for a comparable. And the scout said Amon Green. You remember him, the running back who's a linear guy, explosive speed, plays well in space. We saw him do it when he was with the Seahawks, saw him do it when he was with the Packers. That's who this guy reminds me of. He is a nightmare because of his electrifying speed. And what he needs to work on is just being a little more shifty. But this is an explosive, high-level athlete.
Yeah, I mean, here's the fact. When you look at him and where he stands in the pantheon of running backs, just from Oklahoma State, he's ahead of Thurman Thomas. He's behind Barry Sanders, but he's breathing rarefied air.
He is, and I think the one thing that people question is, hey, is this a guy that can catch the ball at the backfield as we take a look at those studs that he's up there against? Now, this is a guy that comes in from Canada, right? So people are saying, can he make the transition? How good is he? Did he play against good talent up in Alberta, Canada? But all he's shown is that he's proved it on the field. As we said, he's an explosive guy. And to even be mentioned in the same name with Barry Sanders, Ernest Anderson, Terry Miller, and of course Thurman Thomas is a special feat for this young kid.
Yeah, new OC, but you know you can rely on him, especially with the fact you have Spencer Sanders coming back, you have Thailand Wallace coming back. They've got some weapons to look at. So let's roll the tape and let's look at what he does well, because you mentioned you want to see him be a little bit more shifty, but I do see a little bit, I see some of that deliberateness in terms of what he's able to do. So when he sees it, and then he goes.
Well, it's the burst and the suddenness, I think, that stands out and jumps when you watch the tape, because this is a guy that once he gets his foot in the ground, we'll have a chance to see it here. They're backed up 1st and 10, right? So they're trying to move the chains. But this is a guy that, because he's so explosive, once he gets through, cut here, and then now I can outrun the angle. Something I learned from Mike Locksley when he was at Illinois. He's now the head coach of Maryland. He always told me, Chris, he said, there's few college backs that can make a series of moves in the hole, and that's what this kid can do. You're going to see it right here. Here comes the move. Boom, boom. And then now he's off to the races. And guys in college just can't do that. And so here's a kid that can make his own 30 for 30, going 30-plus yards here on a gashing run.
Yeah, I love this. And I will say this, we got to give some credit to Oklahoma State.
Yes.
This is great blocking up front. And this is a team that we know them for throwing the football around, right? We know them for having, quarterbacks that are putting up crazy numbers. But they changed their mentality when they recognized, we got a weapon like this, we need to feed him. And I love this shot, because watch the way that we see these two lead blockers, watch the way everybody gets on top of these linebackers, and everybody gets a hat on hat.
I love that you pointed that out. And give some props to the big hogs up front.
Oh, yeah.
Because what we were able to see, watch the center get on number 3, right in the center of the screen here. Watch this block. This is exactly what you want. There it is. Kick him out.
Yep.
Get him sealed. Now he's pinned, and that creates a run lane. We talk about running backs having the ability to have a second gear once they get to the next level. Clearly, we can see that with Chuba Hubbard. You mentioned his track speed. Yes, he is a track guy, but he's now developing into a pure running back.
Yes.
I thought he was the best runner last year. Not necessarily the best running back, but I thought he was the best runner.
Yeah, and this is the other part, and we talked about it when we sat down to do the show. We said, hey, he's a little bit bigger than we thought.
Yeah.
And this is one of those instances where you get to see that he's been in that weight room. That red shirt year was huge for him to go from a track guy that played football to a football player that has track speed, and you see him now shake off defensive linemen.
And what you also see, Michael, this is schemed up. You get trips up top. They're making you defend the grass. So they're spacing you out and trying to put speed in space. And this is one of the keys. You don't have a whole player here. There's not a safety sitting back there in single high. So once he gets to the second level, now he knows he's got the juice. This is high octane, pure gas. We're talking 93. We're not talking 87. This is Ferraris. This is cars with the horses right here. This is exactly what he does. You saw the finish. He knows he's a track guy, but he's also an evolving football player.
And then we get to, listen, we talk about explosion, right? Let's look at these explosive plays. 30-plus yards, 15 runs of 30-plus yards. He's first in that. He's tied for first in with 9 runs over 40-plus yards. He's tied for first with 7 runs over 50-plus yards. He's tied for first with 5 runs over 60-plus yards. Like, this is why there are running backs who are the lead running back for their football team that do not have 60-plus or 50-plus yard runs. That's wild.
And I think it's also worth noting that what this does is it gets your offensive linemen lathered up, too. You see these guys with these big chunk plays and these rips, and then they get intrigued. They get excited to go out and block for Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, and I love that they do their job. And let's go back to watching a little bit more Hubbard. And I think that the key with him, I mean, he's explosive, and this is where we're going to see him take his game to that next level this year. As he does more of this, you see the stretch, you see the cutback, but there's that extra step in that cutback instead of sticking that foot in and then getting up the field.
Well, here's the questions on his game, right? We know he's an open field runner. We know he runs with his eyes, but can he get you tough yards? Can he get you the dirty yards in between the tackles? Watch the foot in the ground, as you point out, squares his shoulders, and now he knows he's got to run with power, get his knees up. Excellent job of eluding the defender there. So this is a kid that he's not just a speed and space guy.
No.
I mean, he can get you those hard yards when you need it. Here's 2nd and 4. They're trying to move the chains, squares his shoulders, foot in the ground. There's the acceleration. There's the burst to get to the second level.
The nice little sidestep, jump cut. And then this is the thing that I love, the little subtle part of this game, C-Mart, that I really love, is the fact that watch the way at the end of this run, you see it there, he tries to stick it into the ground, gets upfield. Watch this, 2 hands.
Yep.
2 hands.
Thinking on his feet.
He goes 2 hands over the football because he wants to make sure that he doesn't cough this thing up after he's already picked up that first down.
No doubt about it. And again, ability to see that, covered up, knowing that you're going through the trash on the field. It just tells me that it's a player that's being able to think on his feet, being heady. And look at the guys up front. That's a zone blocking scheme up front. They're getting all the wash down. He makes a nice cut back.
Now, this is my favorite. And I'm going to say this right now. We're going to talk about some other guys that do not block later on the show, but watch this chip. He set old boy down.
Yeah, he did.
Like that. Look at him.
Yeah,
look
he
at him. He's
stunned him.
struggling.
He shocked him.
He is struggling.
And that's the 210 pounds that we talked about in his disposition being rocked up. And you know what I like, too, is just having the wherewithal to be smart, not only after he stones this guy, but then also being able to kind of have the instincts, play, recognize.
Be available.
Yeah, be available, work for the quarterback. Now you're able to move the chains. This is a guy that's evolving. Nice job of finishing the run there, too.
Yeah, I love this. The reason I picked this play was because he's available for the quarterback. And I love that he makes himself a target. You see that? But then I went back and was watching. I was like, oh, this chip could be a highlight by itself because he is willing to go out there and block. Like he stones a guy. He helps his offensive tackle out and makes a play. And then the reason I threw this one on here is we don't see running backs make this type of catch routinely. We saw him play a little wide receiver a season ago. And look at this is a difficult catch to make. And he's able to do that and then explode.
It's a design screenplay. And let's give some props again to the big hogs up front. We saw Marcus Keys out leading the way, number 75. This isn't easy for these big guys up front to be able to pull and get out on the second level, but this is another, again, schemed up play. It's easy for the quarterback to drop the ball in there. Now, this is the question marks on his game. Can he catch the ball out the backfield consistently? He's showing it here. And the other thing he shows is power. We talked about it before. He's bigger than you thought. He's stronger than you thought, so he can run through the contact. And I think those are the things that you really want to see. Michael, here's what he's got to prove to me, though. He is a linear guy.
Yes.
He wants to get north right here, yes. But does he have the wiggle? Can he be a little shiftier?
Watch the switch.
I think that's another thinking on your feet. Those are the things you're going to have to work at because that's what they're going to look at. If this guy wants truly, he went back to become the top back in the country. Things he's got to work on. A little bit of a tight athlete.
Sure.
He's got to get a little more flexibility. He's got to develop a little more shiftiness, a little more wiggle to his game.
Right.
Might not be where he hangs his hat, but he has to have the ability to do that. That'll make more guys miss in space. Then he can accentuate his linear speed, which is what he wants to do.
Yeah, and I for me, watching him, listen, I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit. We did a spring cleaning on him, and I said he's going to be the best running back in the Big 12, and guess what? He was. Mm-hmm. So I am going to pat, I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit on that. But what I see out of him is that explosiveness. What I see is the presence of mind to cover the ball up with 2 hands, to switch from your left hand to your right hand, from your right hand to your left hand as you get up the field. Those little things let me know that he's dedicated to the craft. And I think if he's dedicated to the craft, he has a great opportunity to push to be one of the top 3, top 4 backs that come out in this most recent cycle.
You got to think. I believe he petitioned the NFL to see what his draft grade would be. It came back maybe late second round, maybe top of the third round. Yeah. And so he realized there's the Jonathan Taylors out there, the J.K. Dobbins, and so he felt like he got washed down.
Sure.
Well, how do you improve that? How do you elevate your stock? You come back, you correct those things that we talked about, you put good stuff on tape, and then all of a sudden you're the first back taken. And make no mistake about it, this is a kid, again, coming from Canada to the States. Amazing accomplishment. Get a chance to look at those guys he'll be up against next season. Travis Etienne, surprised he went back. Najee Harris, many surprised he went back. A great cadre of running backs, but to me, the one sitting at the top, Chuba Hubbard, has a chance to be the first one taken in the 2021 draft.
Yeah, I look at this class of 2021, the potential 2021 backs, and I mean, I think Boobie Whitlow is an interesting character there because in the SEC, he's a guy that has shown that playing for Gus Malzahn, he runs tough. I love what we see out of Kennedy Brooks, who has some of the similar qualities to Chuba Hubbard. Not the same speed, but he has a little bit more shiftiness, so he's able to find ways to create yardage. And I think Najee Harris, probably the most tools out of the bunch, so I can't wait to talk about him. But I look at Chuba, and I think that 23 catches this year, 22 catches a season ago as a redshirt freshman. I think that we're going to continue to see him expand, especially because Spencer Sanders is going to be a little older. He's going to be a little more mature. So they're going to find ways to get this running back a little bit more a little more touches, a few more opportunities with the football. But this is a group in Oklahoma State with Thailand Wallace, Spencer Sanders, Chuba Hubbard. They are going to be a problem, and I think they're going to be on a lot of people's short list as dark horse contenders.
A real issue for sure. They lose a couple offensive line pieces, so they're going to have to gel up front. And again, this is an electrifying dude now. I mean, he can change the game in the blink of an eye. That's exactly what you want. So in Stillwater, they're excited. They're lucky to get this kid back. You mentioned Thailand Wallace. He's a guy that can stretch you vertically out on the perimeter. That can open up some things here, but a fun guy to watch, very intriguing. As I said before, I thought he was the best pure runner, not necessarily running back, but the best pure runner in college football.
He's filthy with the football in his hands, and I cannot wait to see what 2020 brings for a guy that's going to be in that 2021 NFL draft.
No doubt.